Tonight, Quincy Public School Business Manager Joe Murphy announces he will now retire. His reasons in just minutes.
Record heat still across the nation's midsection, but this is February. When will it start to feel like February, and what about that chance of rain? We got the latest coming up.
I don't fight, I don't live.
A new meaning of life and hope will soon come to several health patients right here in the Tri-States. I'm Michael Pelarchi to explain how, straight ahead.
This is KHQA News at 6, working for you.
Our top story tonight, Quincy Mayor Kyle Moore delivers his fourth State of the City address. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us for KHQA News at 6. I'm Raja Maples.
And I'm David Amalotti. Tonight, Mayor Moore and other city leaders gathered at the Elks Lodge in Quincy. Moore discussed several key points such as workforce development, education, and local economy. He also spoke about the Quincy Promise. Moore says this initiative aims to help both students and local businesses.
And the goal is not only for them to enroll in those programs, but to tie them directly to our businesses and give the businesses access to those students.
Now, Moore is up for re-election this April.
New in Illinois politics right now, lawmakers are remembering the life of a former U.S. representative. Peoria, Illinois native Bob Michael has died at the age of 93. He was the longest-serving minority leader in the history of the U.S. House. Michael served Illinois' 18th congressional district for 38 years. He was a strong conservative voice for President Ronald Reagan's agenda. Michael was succeeded by Ray LaHood. Now, many lawmakers released statements on the passing of Michael. Congressman Darren LaHood said, quote, Bob is remembered for his uncommon decency and his common-sense Midwestern values. He was a true statesman and an example for all of us in public service, end quote. Illinois U.S. Senator Dick Durbin also released a statement saying, quote, we had neighboring congressional districts downstate. We campaigned for each other's components, but there was never a moment when we were not respectful and friends. His legacy goes beyond his years of service, end quote. And finally, Illinois Governor Bruce Rauner paid his respects, saying, quote, he fought hard for his country in World War II and spent the rest of his life tirelessly working on behalf of Peoria, the state of Illinois, and our nation. He was beloved by all, end quote. Michael's services are planned late next week in Peoria.
New tonight, Quincy Public School Business Manager Joe Murphy announces he will now retire. This announcement cues the end of a career spanning more than 36 years, the last 5 with Quincy Public Schools. Now today he spoke exclusively with KHQA to discuss his decision to retire. Murphy is one of the architects of the QPS referendum. He is the district's technology director and advised the QPS Boundary Advisory Task Force. He says he's about to turn 60 and is dealing with stress-related health issues.
It's been an absolute privilege. I mean, the opportunities that I've had, the people that I've had to work with, the accomplishments that I've been able to be part of, particularly obviously the referendum and the building of the new schools. You know, that's going to change the landscape of Quincy for the next 50 years.
Now, Superintendent Roy Webb says the district will now reevaluate the structure of the central office. There is the possibility some roles will now combine. That's because Human Resources Director David Boster is also set to retire at the end of this year. Webb says Murphy's shoes will be tough to fill.
I think he's going to remain around in the community, and he's pledged that he's going to be, you know, part of our team and look out for us. And if we need help, we can always reach out to him. And if he says that, then I know that's true.
Now you can read a full statement released by Roy Webb from earlier this morning right now on KHQA.com. Murphy tells me he has a grandson that he looks to spend far more time with now that he will be able to retire. He will complete the rest of this spring semester. The school district still needs to finalize his official last day.
New tonight in Iowa now, it is official. Iowa Governor Terry Branstad signed a law that will limit public workers' collective bargaining rights. It's effective immediately.
KHQA's Iowa State House reporter Steffi Lee spoke to Wisconsin Teachers Union leader on how a similar law there has changed everything.
The changes to the scope of bargaining will help unleash innovation.
Republicans are promising positive changes, saying it'll rebalance the system, rebalance local control.
By placing supplemental pay in the restricted category, state agencies, locally elected officials, and school boards can now offer pay incentives.
It's really been hit and miss.
But similar changes in Wisconsin aren't getting positive reviews.
It really depends on the school district that you have, and how the school boards value the staff that they have.
Dean DeBrew is president for a local chapter of the Wisconsin Education Association Council.
What we're turning into is a state with school districts of haves and have-nots. And those school districts that have the resources are drawing teachers away from school districts that don't.
Wisconsin also puts restrictions on collective bargaining in areas like healthcare.
It's not consistent. Some school districts have involved their employees in the discussions on changes to health care, while others have just unilaterally made those changes.
Labor experts say such a quick change does leave more questions than answers.
So I think there's thousands of families around the state who are, probably sitting at their kitchen tables wondering what comes next.
This law is unconstitutional.
AFSCME Iowa Council 61 President Danny Homan says he's filing a lawsuit against the governor. University of Iowa Labor Center Director Jennifer Shearer says while she can't predict what an end result of any legal battle could be.
It wouldn't be surprising if there's quite a bit of litigation that follows because the bill is so long, 68 pages of numerous changes, and I think it's probably predictable that there will be many legal challenges to different aspects of it.
In Des Moines, Steffi Lee, KHQA News.
Well, like Wisconsin, Iowa's changes also require regular union recertification elections. Opponents say that's a key factor in why they call this bill union busting.
Now, your 7-storm team first forecast.
Hope you had a chance to get out and enjoy some of this record-breaking heat across the nation's midsection, because that's exactly what it was. 67 degrees at Chicago, 73 at the Quad Cities, 72 at Quincy, 74 at Kansas City, and even 75 at St. Louis. Yes, records were broken all across the nation's Midwest. Now we're down to 61 at Quincy, 71 at St. Louis, 66 at Kansas City. There's not much happening here other than just a few high, thin clouds. Still, a southwesterly flow is in place. We do have a weak cool front, which will briefly shift our winds to the northwest, and that will put a lid on temperatures. Not by much, but just a little bit for tomorrow. We're not talking 70s, we're talking 60s, but still well above average for this time of year. So for tonight, 46 for the low, mostly clear skies, still a southwesterly breeze. And then for tomorrow, the wind shifts to the northwest. Just a few clouds early in the day, but then a mostly sunny sky will prevail. With the high temperatures up into the mid-60s, we'll be back into the 70s for the balance of the weekend, and we'll tell you about that chance of rain coming up here in just a moment. But in the meantime, we do have new burn bans to tell you about this evening for parts of the tri-states. Now, the following areas, the cities or areas, are under a burn ban effective immediately until further notice. Those areas are Marion County, Palmyra, Hannibal, and Rawls County in Missouri, Pike and Brown counties in Illinois, Lee in southeast Iowa. These bans are now in place due to the low moisture conditions, low relative humidity, and high wind conditions. Speaking of fires, an early morning fire has now displaced 4 Quincy residents. This happened at 1105 Adams in Quincy at about 1:30 this morning. No one was hurt, fortunately, but there was moderate damage in the basement and the first floor of the home. The Quincy Fire Department tells KHQA that an investigation is now underway to determine the cause.
Thank you, Rich. Well, developing now in Illinois, help could soon be on the way if you're in need of an organ.
Senate Bill 868 might soon allow 16 and 17-year-olds to register for the first person organ tissue donor registry. KHQA's Michael Pilarchi now joins us live from our newsroom with how this could impact patients. Michael?
Roger, David, I want you guys to take a look at lifegoeson.com. Now, this is a website where almost 5,000 people in Illinois who are in desperate need of an organ transplant will come to register. Now, if this bill passes, it could bring a new life for people statewide and right here in the tri-states.
If I don't fight, I don't live.
That's the motto Kim and Darren Johnson live by as Kim battles through renal issues. Complications began at a young age.
I went on dialysis when I was 16.
Her kidneys began to fail and a kidney transplant was needed. The first was from her own brother,
which was one of the best gifts that anybody could ever give somebody.
Kim says kidneys are like batteries as they eventually wear out. The second transplant was remarkable.
So it ended up lasting me 13 years.
She had to endure another one, which makes 3 in total.
I don't know what day-to-day life is for somebody who doesn't have renal issues.
It's a struggle, but we get through it together. And you know, that's all I can do is try to be there for her and help her as much as I can.
But now there's more hope. Illinois Senate Bill 868 will allow 16 and 17-year-olds to register for the Donor Tissue Registry, a list where former Quincy Mayor Chuck Schultz knows all too well.
Well, obviously it saved my life, so it's been transformational. It was a miracle.
Schultz was on the receiving end years ago as he was in desperate need of a liver transplant. Now he's healthier than ever as he also advocates for the expansion for organ donors.
God's blessed me with a second chance. I have to make the most of it and do what good I can to help save others.
Kim says she'll continue to fight and not let her health issues overcome her life.
You're going to be miserable forever, and that's not how I want to live my life. I don't want to be like that.
Senate Bill 868 will now go to the Senate for full consideration. Live in the newsroom, Michael Polarchi, KHQA News.
Still to come, the number of farms in Iowa has dropped. How that number compares to the nationwide average, straight ahead.
It will change the way kids do their assignments in some cases.
Students in one tri-state school district will now have an opportunity to learn in a more digital-friendly way. We'll show you how next on KHQA News at 6.
You're watching KHQA News at 6, working for you.
New tonight at 6 o'clock, a new report now shows there were 500 fewer farms in Iowa last year. Well, the average farm size rose slightly, but the amount of farmland stayed at 30.5 million acres. According to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Iowa has about 87,000 farms. The average farm size rose slightly from 349 to 351. Nationally, the number of farms fell by 8,000.
New in education news, Palmyra R1 School District is swinging into the digital age by rolling out a new electronic initiative. It's called the One-to-One iPad program. Actually. Each student will have access to their own district-owned iPad. The idea is to prepare students for the high-tech world we live in. Now, according to the middle school teacher, Addie Gottman, teachers can upload course content and students can easily access it. The rollout of the One-to-One iPad program is said to be complete by 2018.
I'm just excited about this new journey that's going to take us to the next level, to get us ready for this 21st century learning that we hear all about, that we can provide for our students and give them the best education possible.
A new opportunity that will give students a charge to learn, right? There's a pun there, Raj. I'm trying to find it. Palmyra Superintendent Eric Churchwell says funding for the iPads will come from the district's current budget.
Speaking of education, staff and students at Liberty Elementary School spent the week doing random acts of kindness. It was part of an international Random Acts of Kindness week. Students were challenged daily to send kind notes to fellow classmates, smile at everyone they see, and keep a positive attitude. They concluded the week with a high school student singing the Tim McGraw song, "Always Stay Humble and Kind."
It starts with one act, and then all of that spreads through to other people who see or receive that act, and then hopefully they can pass it on and keep spreading kindness and spreading joy.
Well, all students received magnets designed by high school students that read, "Always Stay Humble and Kind." This is the school's second year participating in Random Acts of Kindness Week.
And looks like Mother Nature may be kind to us as far as the temperature department. Now, as far as the rainfall, that may be a whole nother story. We'll take a look at your forecast in detail coming up next.
Now, your exclusive 7-storm team forecast.
We'll begin this evening with a live look through our sleep tight sky cam to the west and slightly to the southwest, where we had a beautiful sunset amongst some thin high cloud cover. A lot of that is melted away, as it usually does by about sunset, once you lose that mixing of the atmosphere. So we'll call it a mostly clear sky for the overnight after a record high temperature of 72 degrees. 70, that was set back in 2011. 45 the early morning low. The average temps 40 for the high and 23 for the low. Sunrise tomorrow morning 6:55, and right now we do have that mostly clear sky. And right now Quincy Regional Airport 61 degrees. Dew point is 34. South-southwest wind there at 8 miles an hour, 2969. is the barometer, and it's holding steady. Macomb, you got few clouds, but other than that, a wonderful evening taking shape. The airport checks in with 61 degrees, 60. Humidity at 36%, south-southwest wind at 8 miles an hour. I like it when I get fresh data rather than just holding it off at the top and holding it for an hour. 64 at Keokuk, 61 in Hannibal, Novelty, 64 at Kirksville, 62 at Jacksonville, and 67 now at Pittsfield. That wind still out of the south and southwest at about 8 miles an hour, 9 miles an hour. That wind will continue out of the southwest before taking a shift to the northwest. Lots of rainfall for our friends at California, southern Oregon, all the way into northern Mexico. Some of this coming down heavily at times, and this is also snow in the upper elevations. This is the heaviest system in the last couple of months or so. So this is going to provide some mudslides, but also recharge some of the reservoirs. Not for us here in the tri-states. We need the rain. It's just not in the cards. Now, folks across the southern Mississippi Valley may get a little bit of some shower activity, but for us, it's just going to be a little bit of thin clouds. Weak cool front's going to come in from the north and then shift our wind briefly. That's just for tomorrow. One day only, and then we start to warm back up again. Now, we do have some showers in the forecast. Does not show up in the forecast in motion over the course of the next couple of days or so, but it does come into play as we've been talking about for the last several days on President's Day, Monday. Better chance of rain towards the end of next week. So for tonight, we're looking at mid-40s, the low. Clear sky, southwest wind at 5 to 10, and then for tomorrow, plenty of sunshine, mid-60s, west wind at 5 to 10. And then as we look into the crystal ball, after mid-60s tomorrow, we are back up to the low 70s on Sunday with lows in the low 50s. There's our slight chance of showers on Monday, highs near 70. A little bit cooler Tuesday, but still awfully mild. Best chance of rain is going to be late Thursday night into Friday, with showers and maybe a few thunderstorms likely, and then we'll finally start to turn cooler. But the long-range data indicates that turning cooler is going to be brief because we're going to follow that with another warming trend, perhaps. We'll have to wait and see.
I think the sunshine improves everyone's outlook.
Definitely.
All right, except for the firefighters.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, but it does especially brighten up Chris Dewar's day because that makes sports and all that driving around way more enjoyable.
Indeed. Early morning this morning in beautiful Champaign, state wrestling. I'm going to show you the best comeback you will see all year, plus a lot of victories today. We'll talk all about it when sports continues.
Now, from across the tri-states, this is KHQA Sports.
Well, the Tri-States will be home to a host of newly minted state wrestling medalists from both Illinois and Iowa after this weekend, and we've still got 4 chances at this moment for state titles heading into the semifinal rounds in both states. We're going to take you to Champaign this morning. State quarterfinals Class 1A, that is West Hancock's Brett Hamill taking on Sean Sparacino of Chicago Military Academy at 126. Check out the grit out of Hamill in this one. Undefeated coming in, catches a shoulder, catches a leg, turns it into a takedown, and eventually into 2 quick back points to jump out to an early 4-0 lead. And that's really all Hamill would need today to pick up win number 30 of the season. Beautifully done by him, a 7-1 decision. He is on into the semifinals tonight. Got a tough draw, but again, undefeated on the season. Meanwhile, at 138, Quincy Notre Dame's Zach Haley versus Clayton Peterson of Shelbyville. We're working late, still neutral in period 1, but here comes Zach to pick up the escape points. And right there, or actually he would pick up the takedown points right here. He would give up a late escape, leading 5-2 right here, run around and play keep away. Hey, it's an odd strategy, but it worked for him as Zach Haley advances on to the semifinals. By virtue of this victory today, 5-3. He's got a tough draw as well tonight. We'll update you on his progress. Meanwhile, 182, match of the day, Beardstown's Chad Grimm taking on Elijah Rowe of Lena Winslow. Here's the story. Midway through period 1, Grimm goes down with what could have been torn knee ligaments. He gutted it out. At this point, he is down 6-2 in the 3rd period. But check him out right here. Here comes Grimm, going to get the escape point right there, and then with just 22 seconds left in the match, turns the tables completely around, a desperation pin to win it. He may not be able to wrestle, he may injury default the rest of the way, but by virtue of this victory today, he earns himself a medal with that big win. Meanwhile, let's bump you up to Class 3A today, 220 pounds. Tyree Williams of Quincy High School ran into a buzzsaw. An undefeated Zake Lapapi of Rockton Hottenega right here. Tyree with a late reversal right here, but he ends up losing on the day by a 12-4 final. Let's check in on some other scores. We're going to start in Iowa today as we check the scoreboards. Brant O'Shea still undefeated in the state tournament and will be wrestling tonight in the state semifinals after an early win today. Ashton Myers not as fortunate at 112 pounds today, gave up a 14-2 loss to the #1 ranked wrestler in the state, Drake Doolittle. He'll wrestle back tonight, try to find his way back to extra placing points later. Harlan Steffensmeyer, interesting day for him. Won to start the day off. Lost later in the night to the top-ranked Kristen Lara. Up next for Harlan, 2 matches tomorrow to see where he'll place. Also, little brother Ryan Steffensmeyer rebounding after losing to the #1 wrestler in the state in his opener. He wins today, then loses. He'll be wrestling for 7th place tomorrow. And also want to mention congratulations to Hannibal Andrew Jones. Wrestling through the back draw has a chance to place a medal if he can get one more win in Columbia. All your wrestling highlights and plenty of basketball coming up tonight on Sports Final. We will see you then.
We broke a record today.
That's right, 72. Not quite a record tomorrow, but enjoy the nice weekend.
All right. Thanks, Rich.
We'll definitely try to try. That does it for KHQA News at 6. Have a good evening. We'll see you at 10.